Bloody Ties, the first official DLC to this year's wildly successful Dying Light sequel, Dying Light 2 Stay Human, is almost upon us. Promising another thrilling first-person yarn through zombie-ravaged post-apocalypse, here's 15 things to know before diving back into Dying Light's blood-soaked world. First of 2 story DLCs. Bloody Ties is the first of 2 confirmed DLC stories coming to Dying Light 2. In fact, developer Techland has promised 5 years of post-release support, content, and DLC. Techland's guarantee is completely trustworthy too. After all, they're only just moving on from supporting the first Dying Light released 7 years ago. That title received a mix of free and paid post-launch content, so there's no reason to think Dying Light 2 Stay Human won't receive the same treatment. Bloody Ties' story centers on Aiden entering Bloodsport with Roll 7's rollerball-inspired skater-cum-blood-sport, Rollerdrome, releasing in the summer. Perhaps post-apocalyptic Bloodlust tournament-themed video games are on the rise. Either way, Bloody Ties taps into similar gladiator-like aesthetics, with Aiden tasked with entertaining crowds of bloodthirsty revelers in arena-based combat, encouraged by the promise of unimaginable wealth and fame in an increasingly sadistic world. New adventure, deeper than arena-based combat. Bloody Ties' plot is said to run thicker than purely bloody action, with themes of rivalry, power, and revenge rearing their ugly heads alongside Aiden's fight for fame and survival. New friend Zero is encountered once Aiden enters the pantheon of fame-hungry fighters, and together they'll join forces solving the mystery behind Zero's brother's death, whilst uncovering the true shady nature of the tournament. This story is a tonal shift away from Dying Light 2 Stay Human. The story of Dying Light 2 Stay Human takes a much more serious turn when compared with its predecessor, with a tense narrative supported by a cast of emotionally compelling characters. Bloody Ties, on the other hand, appears to make a tonal shift once again, with a much more lighthearted, kaleidoscopic, black comedy aesthetic, perhaps owing to the fact fights aren't just for survival anymore, but for glory and spectacle too. Story approximately 6 hours. Bloody Ties game designer Timon Smektala is on record stating in an interview there's a chunky story behind all the arena-based combat, with players expecting to take roughly 5 to 6 hours to see it through. This, they add, does not include side quests, which Smektala claims will allow players to change the flow of the DLC's narrative, taking players outside of the main combat arena and back onto the twisted streets of Villador. Less focus on human combat. The bulk of encounters in Bloody Ties will be against zombie enemies, with human combat, as claimed by Smektala, taking up around 30% of the DLC's action. The game announcement trailer certainly shows plenty of human-on-human action, so Smektala's promise slightly goes against expectations. It's not exactly unwelcomed, though. Dying Light 2's thrilling parkour and zombie-ravaged combat are some of the most favored aspects of the sequel, so it's great its first DLC entry uses Stay Human's best features as a foundation on which to build its action. New location, the Carnage Hall. Described by Techland as the epicenter of death, wealth, and splendor, Bloody Ties' new location is the macabre circus arena known as the Carnage Hall. An opulent arts venue for opera performances in a past life, the Carnage Hall is now repurposed as the ideal venue for the most adrenaline-fueled, blood-soaked shows of all time. Bloody Ties won't be contained purely within the walls of this grand venue, though. Alongside the building itself is a surrounding arena which players will get to explore. Arena combat is bulk of DLC. All the pomp and grandeur promised in a place like the Carnage Hall means that there is sure to be a compelling location in which to fight to the death. Bloody Ties, whilst affording players opportunity to step outside the Carnage Hall's walls, will predominantly take place inside the arena. This is a combat-heavy expansion after all. An arena battler is said to have given Techland an opportunity to home in on some of its best combat aspects from Dying Light 2, with players expecting to be able to maximize their arsenal in new and creative ways. In short, as the DLC's designer Timon Smektala puts it, the violence and brutality of Dying Light 2 has been ramped up a notch. Spectacles and shows. In the arena, Aiden will be tasked with undertaking spectacles, that is, multi-objective arena shows that are based on historical or mythological events. Imagine it this way. It's the arena floor redesigned to resemble traditional Fable, but with a dark twist. There'll be creative ways to take on murderous hordes of mutated enemies without it being purely a wave-after-wave arena battle. New enemy types. A DLC heavily focused on zombie combat should come with a raft of new enemies, and thankfully, Bloody Ties won't disappoint in this department. Fresh mutations await Aiden in the Carnage Hall with sickeningly imaginative names such as the Gorilla Demolisher. Other freaks of nature known as Cataclysms and Infernos lie in wait as well. And it'll be exciting to take on these fearsome opponents for the first time come Bloody Ties release. New weapons. Alongside the hordes of new zombie enemies are a handful of new weapons for players to get to grips with the best gear said to provoke a sense of status as much as providing devastating power over other fighters. Amongst the surprising new weaponry is the Shield Glove, which Techland purports offers a new way to play with an item both simultaneously destructive and defensive. Bloody Ties does not fall into the trappings of other Arena DLC. As per game designer Timon Smektala, Dying Light 2 Stay Human's first DLC is not just another Arena title. In their eyes, Arena DLCs are characterized as mini-games heavy with an overall lack of substance. For starters, Bloody Ties won't have mini-games whatsoever. But beyond waves of enemies, spectacles, and multi-themed narratives already discussed in this feature, Smektala also claims that the events inside this arena itself are very interesting and may even defy expectations. This perhaps is owed in part to the more bite-sized nature of a story taking 6 or so hours to complete. A more focused narrative gives the development team a chance to harness each character, so there'll hopefully be an emotional payoff after all the blood is spilled. There will be secrets and surprises. Fans of Techland's titles, and of both Dying Light games in particular, will come to expect Bloody Ties be filled with secrets. Well, players should not be disappointed. Bloody Ties is said to be bountiful with secrets and surprises throughout, enriching the player's experience for those keen enough to explore everything the DLC's new arenas have to offer. Currently scheduled for release November 10th, Bloody Ties has had its release pushed back a few times. It was initially slated for release this past June, which was then pushed back to September, citing need for further development. That release date slipped to mid-October before Techland landed on its current release date of November 10th. All these pushbacks should prove fruitful in the long run. Dying Light 2 Stay Human did release with a handful of technical gremlins, so fingers crossed that Bloody Ties will be playable without a hitch when it's eventually released. Bonus pre-order, the Aristocrat Pack. Deluxe and Ultimate Edition owners of Dying Light 2 Stay Human will already be eligible to receive the Bloody Ties DLC without charge alongside the Aristocrat Pack. For everyone else, you'll need to pre-order before the DLC release to get your mitts on the pre-order bonus items, which, according to the game's Steam page, includes the Aristocrat Guard outfit and Aristocrat weapon. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below, and also be sure to check out our new channel, GB Plays.